Hey guys, Chris here with Crisscross Crafts. Had a message the other day on one of my pages asking me about the dust collection I have on my contractor saw. As you guys all know, collecting dust on a contractor saw, especially an open stand, is horrible. All the sides are open, the bottom's open, the top's open. You just can't collect dust, and literally it doesn't suck. Anyway, so I thought I would just share kind of what I've done with mine. And I had done this footage back in the summer, but just never did anything with it because I was waiting to try to fix my top to try to figure out exactly how I wanted to collect dust on the top side. But nonetheless, I think it would be a good point, especially for you contractor saw owners, to see how exactly I fixed mine. Now, I will admit, part of this design, I did get this idea from Dan Pattison. He had a fantastic idea on his page, but I sort of modified it to make my own. I never like to steal someone's plans straight away. I always like to tweak them a little bit and make them personalized for me. So this is what I did here. You want to see what I did? Hold tight and I'll show you everything about it. Okay, so nothing's easy when I do it. Nothing ever works out standardized. I've seen others use those flat trays up underneath there for their dust collection. Those work okay, but I've used those for other things before, and dust sometimes will just sit on the flat part of that tray. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to use a big gulp. I found out how well it worked behind my miter saw, and I felt like this larger cavity with the constant slope would create a nice gravity-fed diversion into the dust collection, so it would just help it out. The problem is this contractor saw, they have a lip that sticks out here, and you might be saying, so what? Well, this won't fit in any of the gaps, and this tray will not come out because it's assembled when the stand is assembled, and it's kind of wedge fit. It's got some ups and downs and sides and turns and this and that, so it's designed so it can't come out once it's assembled. So my only option, and believe me, I spent an hour kind of running through all of my options, was to cut this lip off so that this could slide back and down. And now I can get this in there just like that. Perfect. Now I got to build out the front end and build up a little bit on the sides to make everything level. But once this is in, this is really going to make a world of difference. I've taken all my measurements and I've laid it all out on a piece of cardboard, so I know exactly what I'm looking forward to here. I'm going to make the inside out of 1/2-inch plywood, and then I'll have this a solid piece that'll be notched out here. I will cut this directly across so that I can actually get it into the hole in there. And so I'll have basically 2 horseshoes that come together, and then the big gulp that'll sit right here in the middle. So I'm going to cut out my template and make sure everything fits. If it doesn't, I can still size it and get everything right on the cardboard before I ruin my piece of Baltic birch. So anyway, give me a minute and we'll come back whenever I get this piece cut out and go from there.
So what you want to do first, make sure you get your template laid out, and it is important to cut that template first. You do want to make sure that everything's going to fit properly before you cut your wood, because there may be some obstructions in your saw that I didn't have. You might have bolts in there, there could be parts of the saw, machinery, so you want to make sure you have full clearance. Now you can see here I'm cutting this out on the bandsaw right up the middle, the start of that horseshoe that I was talking about earlier. And it's important to get that exactly right so that you know it's going to fit. So match up to your template as best you can, and get all your cuts nice and square and clean, and it'll make your life a lot easier when it comes to the next stage of fitting that in there and getting it properly sorted. Well, here you go. I'm assembling the parts in there. I wanted to kind of do a dry fit to make sure everything's going to work, and of course getting that big gulp in there, quite a pain, but it does fit. Now I'm adding these little strips on the front and the back. They are going to rest, they're going to butt into the big gulp, And what that does is it'll kind of lock that in, but it comes out flush with the top of the big gulp. So any dust that comes down will fall right in there. And so they're at a slight angle, which kind of helps. And you can see that rests right on the lip on the back of the saw. Ideally, this was the best thing I could come up with that would make that have a slant. And there's the finished product. I added some duct tape to seal everything up, just to keep the dust from coming out, and that worked perfectly.
Okay, so now that I've got the tub portion squared away inside the saw, I want to work on blocking the dust along the back. And Dan Pattison had a great video showing how he basically made these puzzle pieces that slid together to put a back on the saw. I want to do something similar to that. I'll put a link to his video in the description. But I want to expand on that just a little bit and tweak it some to make it a little more geared towards my particular setup. And I'm going to add a little block on the inside. It creates a shelf, so it gives me a definite space for locking those in. But what I've done, I've gone ahead and removed my motor. My belt's hanging inside, and I went ahead and cut one sheet of cardboard the exact size to the back side of my saw. So let me sort of play around with what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw it out, cut the pieces, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what I came up with. All right?
So this sort of looks like a little jigsaw piece here, jigsaw puzzle, and it kind of is. Essentially, you've got to wrap around your belt, wrap around the trunnion piece on the back, as well as wrap around the motor mount. So you got a lot of things to do. Here I'm drilling out some holes because I'm going to add some magnets to the back plate to help hold it onto the saw.
Alright, so here's my pieces for the back. You can see they fit together like a puzzle. I do have magnets along the back, as well as a backup support just in case it does slide due to vibration or whatever. But how this fits in, it comes right in from underneath like this. Locks right up against that. There's a half round piece on the bottom, so it's a nice easy fitment. You do have to pinch your rollers together slightly, or your dry belt together slightly to get that in place. You get the two in place, they lock in pretty well, they're not going anywhere. But what I did add was this ledger board. It does have elongated slots, and that makes it a backup to my backup. So once I get them in place, I slide that all the way up. Now this is only going to work in the 90-degree mode. If I have to make a bevel or an angle cut, I will have to remove those. But for now, that's going to be the way it's going to be, because most of my cuts on the saw are going to be 90. And I'm debating on how to take care of the angle cuts later.
Alright, so there you go. The back is sealed and locked in perfectly. The big gulp is locking in the bottom perfectly. And that's what it looks like after several cuts. All the dust remained inside the cavity.
Okay, so there you go. There's my table saw dust collection, everything but the above table anyway. What do you think? Let me know below. Don't forget to click that little subscribe button down there, and once you do that, the little bell shows up. Click that too. Let's hear the ding. Anyway, leave me a message or comment. Tell me what your thoughts are. Give me your opinions. I like it. Still, I'm not too happy with what I got planned for the top. Still trying to rummage through my head, but it's a start. So at least this part is done, and now I got to worry about is focusing on the top.